let's just make sure everything's good to go. Is that camera good? Video capture device. Is that good? Awesome. All right. Well, I think the big thing I would say is go to political portraits.com and buy stuff with hashtag shutdown for 30% off. I would do that first. So yeah, let's get started. Today we're going to draw Bill Clinton. Super excited. And yeah, it's going to be a good one. I've drawn Bill before, and I've drawn Hillary and crew. So today we're going to draw Bill, and I actually might draw it this way because it is more of a portrait landscape for the Bill Clinton portrait. It's actually off of his book called My Life, Bill Clinton. And yeah, I think Bill he's probably the earliest president that I remember in my life. And yeah, I think as a kid, there was, don't remember a lot. My parents weren't very political. I remember that, they voted and whatnot, but they never really talked politics. And I don't really talk a lot of politics in my day to day. My daughter and my family and my wife and all that stuff. So I don't know. Politics is present in our culture, I think, more and more, but I don't know. It wasn't necessarily something we talked about all the time. So, but I do remember Bill Clinton. I obviously remember, I probably was a teenager when Bill and the Monica Lewinsky thing happened. And, yeah, that's probably my primary reference for him. Man, he's got kind of a circular nose, doesn't he? He's got these little flary nostrils here. Take a look. I mean, the funny part is often we don't look at, we don't just sit there and look at people's. Yeah, I think it's interesting to I get to dive in a little bit deeper when I'm doing these portraits. You get to actually analyze somebody's face just a little bit more than you did before. So I like doing these pencil. I know it's Inktober. I like to do a little bit of pencil. I think most people do before you get started and you dive in, and you start to draw with ink. Sometimes it's nice to just map out the drawing a little bit. Man, this looks a little long here and a little tight here. Maybe this needs to be a little bit big. Maybe make them longer. And then he's got this salt and pepper, fun salt and pepper hair, and then kind of got some full hair. Very, yeah, I guess if I could, I'd move it over just slightly, but that's the fun of not, that's the fun of not exactly starting in a digital program. You just got to do what you got to do, and that's that's just how it works. So I'm gonna zoom in here, and let's see. I might just move a few things around 1 second. See if there's anything. Okay. So I think last time I was drawing, last night actually, and so what kind of where do you start? A lot of times I do actually start with the nostrils. I don't know why. It just is a nice, it's a nice touch base because they're in the center of the face. It kind of helps with some of the directional stuff You figure out, the direction of the nose, where the nostrils go. Are they even? In this case, one nostril is definitely smaller than the other. Um, and it's also another really interesting thing to see how symmetrical somebody's face is. Um, and I think I said this, maybe say it again. I did watch a tutorial on noses, and man, noses are an architectural wonder. If you're not into, if your drawings look a little flat, or if you're thinking about that, or you're looking at some folks, and some people have really interesting noses, and I would encourage. I think they're all wonderful. I don't think necessarily people need to change them. I think we just appreciate all the different types of noses that are out there. And I don't know if one's better than the other. Bill Clinton's got a really interesting nose. You'd like to be able to just scan his face almost and just be able to look around like a 3D model of it, because I think here's this little panel. There's like a little panel right here, but ultimately it's very like bulbous. It's got a very nice round thing, but he does have some architectural details underneath the nose, so kind of cool. I don't know if I remember a nose like his nose. So if you haven't looked at Bill Clinton's nose lately, something to take a look at. But it should look kind of round. It does have overall shading, and it's got these like kind of small nostrils that go underneath, and they're round too, and then they kind of come right into it. So we'll see how this turns out. Generally, my style of draw and mark making and all that stuff work out pretty well for male subjects, so we'll see. And this is a slightly younger portrait of him, so he doesn't have all his wrinkles and all that, which would probably even work better. But I like this portrait. It's really I think it's optimistic, and it's him as a hero, but I'm sure it highlights some of his I don't know, his misdeeds, if you will. We all know some of the stories, but I think here's his. Man, I don't know, he's got a very dark eye. I would imagine that's a pretty dark pupil, or that's just how it turned out in the photograph. He's got a pretty deep shadow underneath his eye. Like a whole volume here. A lot of these are like sideways wrinkles. I don't know, I'm looking younger than he is, but he's got some of these that come down squinting. Like I said in the beginning, if you are interested in any of these drawings, they're available on the website. I need to sell some of them and replace them with some other ones I have in the wings waiting. I've been drawing for a while, so I have a bunch of drawings sitting that I need to get on the website yet. But yeah, trying to make room for some of these more new Inktober ones. So there's a little shadow here, and then there's something that indicates the plane of that nose, how it has to come down from the side of his, from the top of the nose down to his face, and then it meets that, and then it kind of pops off. A lot of people have like a crease that comes straight off their nose. His actually doesn't. His, there's like a volume that kind of comes out. Like he must have a muscle or something that comes out here, and then it's this wonderful shape. So his he doesn't have a really defined line right there. We'll see if this actually looks like Bill Clinton in the end. I hope it does. This is looking a little too hero-y for me right now. He looks like a conquering hero. So we'll see how he looks in the end. I'm not gonna go out of my way to make him look bad, but I did not plan him looking like a triumphant king here, but he's doing a good job. All right, so the nose is really coming together. Wonder if we can get the lip in. He's kind of got thin. I hate to analyze people, and this is not good or bad. I don't really care whether he, I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just commenting. He's got, like, in this pose and his smile, he has thinner lips. So his top lip is kind of thin. And I'm just going to go for it. That's the only bad part about pen is sometimes, I don't know, sometimes it doesn't go out of the paper or something takes it and it just, the line can get a little funny. It's not always smooth. It might also be my position. And sometimes I'm not smooth. I'm a little jerky sometimes. So, sometimes these lines don't come out as smooth and confident as you want them to be. That's a pretty dark line. I didn't necessarily need it to be that dark, but I think there's a little bit of the part of the lip. It gets a little darker on the edges. Definitely want to indicate there's something there. Usually there's like a little bit of a shadow on the lip. Even as it comes down and kind of meets, there's like all these interesting curves of the face when it goes from one plane to another. Really fun. I may have to go a little softer on some of these lines. I don't want them to be too pronounced. I'm not trying to finish any one area or overly finish that area because I'll come back and I'll slowly kind of add more tone in, and you'll add, more things as you go. But sometimes it's nice just to flesh in a little bit of tone. Okay, so we have that. Let's just work in his cheek just that little bit. He's got this, he's got a crease over here. It's just ever so dark. I'm gonna build up the shape of that. And feels like it's stretches from a certain spot. And I'm sure if you're like a doctor or something, you might know. I think there's certain points where muscle attaches to the face or attaches to the skin, and that's why we get certain creases. And it kind of creates different volume. So when you see like these creases are kind of where certain muscle masses are attaching and pulling, and he doesn't have it's not super pronounced, but so I need to add a little bit of gradient back here and have it come down his cheek. Sometimes I'm like feel like I'm measuring distances almost. Yeah, man. I don't know if this is looking like him or looking like somebody else. Sometimes it goes that way where it's like, what the heck are you drawing? Like, that doesn't look like the president. Like, that looks like looks like a bodybuilder. It looks like somebody else with a really strong jaw. His jaw is actually pretty strong in this photo, but his it's really wide. So maybe I do need to make it much wider. We'll see. Sometimes it makes sense to like put in just heavy lines, but with pen you can't really do that. I wish I could. This might be better for an actual graphite drawing, because then you can make some hard lines, erase into it, kind of sculpt the face a little bit more. Can't quite do that with a pen. You sculpt the face and you could end up with a very dark drawing. That's not what we necessarily intend to do as a really dark drawing. Sometimes it happens when you need to put shadows in and whatnot, but like this is a very bright shot. I was probably taken outside. They probably had a photographer come around and hang out with him and the fam for a little bit, and then they took probably a few hundred photos for the cover of this book. They're trying to find a joyous one, and this one, I don't know, just worked out well. So let's see if we can add in. There's this big, there's like a ridge here, and then there's, yeah, right now it's hard for me to think that this is Bill Clinton. So I wouldn't doubt that anybody watching this is thinking like, where is Bill Clinton out of this? I don't see it. It might be. Let me try and get rid of some of this. Sometimes the pencil gets in the way. You can see where some of the man, could also be the angle I'm drawing at. It just isn't coming out right. Okay, so if I'm going to fill that volume in, I know there's going to be a slight a slight tone over here, so I can put some ink down. We'll see. As this guy is, sometimes it's easier to pick. I thought this portrait I thought was a little bit more iconic for him, so it would actually come across better as well. It'd be easier to draw, easier to convey the Bill Clinton-ness of it, and maybe that's not true of this photograph that I'm drawing from, or maybe it's just my skill level is just horrible. We'll see if we can pull Bill out of this piece. They're very like hallmark to somebody's face. Like brings you home and grounds it and says, "Oh yeah, that's Bill Clinton." I don't know what that feature is. I haven't drawn him enough to really figure that out. I've drawn Trump a lot lately, and so I feel like maybe I know more about what that might be for Donald Trump. It has definitely been a minute since I've drawn Bill Clinton, so there may be some Clinton-esque things that I have missed or I've overlooked in my drawing. That happens. Okay, so that's that. Here. Yeah, so the edge of his face is over here somewhere. And it's really subtle. I don't want to go too dark. I may have to bulge an ear out. Gonna freestyle it in here. Thought I had given myself enough room. I'm gonna just put the hair shape in. And sometimes it's okay if it looks, I like my drawings when there's a hard line sometimes. Sometimes it also helps too, because I don't necessarily need to make these. These aren't necessarily supposed to be perfect renderings of somebody's face. I don't need them to be that. That's looking. There's a little bill somewhere in there right now. I think I've seen a little smirk come out. There's something about this that's looking a little bit more bill. Something about that has, it's really kind of showing up maybe a little bit more for me. Now let's get into some shading. I like to move around a little bit more than I normally would, especially when I'm doing these videos, because it makes it just more interesting for everybody all around. Because you don't want to watch me just sit there and painstakingly work on one spot. It's not fun for you guys to watch, and it's definitely not necessarily that fun for the time-lapse videos. And if you're willing to sit through one of these, I appreciate it. Sometimes they're 40 minutes, sometimes they're 30 minutes. Really depends how big it is, how dark it is. The AOC one yesterday was like an hour, and that was kind of painful. There was a lot of ink on that one. Her dark hair really kind of tested me and the Bic pen here. I didn't know if there was enough ink in the Bic pen to deal with all that hair, but okay, so this is that spot. And if you want to follow along, you can go look up Bill Clinton, My Life. It's the cover of this book. That's what I'm drawing. I've got it in front of me, so I get to see it. But if you're like, ooh, I wonder what's next, or what's coming up, or wow, this doesn't look anything like Bill Clinton, you can find out. Just take a look at the book cover. That's where we're going. Yeah. Alright, we'll deal with some of this hair later. It's got salt and pepper hair. We're going to have to make some really good marks, because we don't have infinite marks with that hair. Yeah, are we still seeing the feed on this one? I don't know if we're getting the video capture. The second video. Let me see if we're getting the feed on that guy. Maybe that's got to be smaller. I don't know, maybe my computer can't handle it. I don't know. We're gonna keep going. Let me know if that video shows up. Let me see if I hit the live stream myself. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that video's working. Nothing inherently Bill about him, and we will get it. There's like a little edge right there, and maybe there's like a little edge right there. Don't want to define it too much, but he does have, I think his nose is a big part of the Bill look. Like he's got this nose. I'm not making really deep or heavy big marks. I'm barely touching the pen to the paper sometimes. So if you're wondering how is this ink, or how is he drawing like that, why does he do it? Because I'm really not trying to put a lot of pressure on the paper. It's like guiding the pen across it, and sometimes it's just putting down little tiny marks, and that's, for me, like, that's cool. That gives me the, like, slight texture, slight gradient that helps fill it out. And then I can come back in and add a hard line if I want to, but most things are not black, like in a drawing. So most things, they don't ever need to get that dark. And if I ever really need something to be high contrast, maybe I'll just have to be very careful where I draw, and maybe leave some areas not in gray so that I can come back and add some contrast. And sometimes I actually like adding in just some of these lines. Instead of drawing the whole thing, you can add in like blocking an area, and then I come back and just add a few pieces that help create that texture, create that view, that tonal range. But I don't want to draw every hair in his head. I don't think you guys want to watch that either. Alright, man. And the top of his hair, honestly, gets a little monotone. Take a look at that book. Like, there's like this section on top that is so tight, salt and pepper, that you can barely see anything. So I might not even color in very much of his hair. I might just do like a gradient to fill some of that in, just to give it something so it's not white, but not put a lot of time into it, because I don't want to try and draw a perfectly rendered light gray. That's not what I'm here for. Alright, let's get back to his face. There's a little here. So it's clearly a bright day. It was probably overcast out, so it took a really nicely lit portrait, which is great. Not as great for me, because sometimes easier if there's like really harsh highlights and shadows. When everything's like 40% gray, not a lot of contrast going on. So like, you don't get a lot of the eyebrow popping out. You don't get a lot of the individual hairs or wrinkles. It's slightly just monotone. So some of this will look a certain way. That connects down into here, and this is where we get a little bit of that. I want to add a little bit of that darkening here so you can see it. And then he's got like a little, there's a little bit of a wrinkle, ever so slight. I'll push this back. We'll make a little bit more here. Alright, cool. We're making some headway. Making art. Alright, so yeah. So if you find this part tedious and boring, I don't blame you. If you're not the one doing the drawing, it may not be as fun, but I appreciate anybody watching. Well, let's see if this is looking like our man here. I did recall now as I look at this, the last time I drew his face, it was probably he was a little older in the photo or in the drawing that I was referencing, but he did have these like kind of lines. He has these definite lines that go down to his that kind of connect to this bigger cheekbone thing. And then he's got these, yeah, they're like not on his lips. Normally you'd think they'd be more connected to his lips, but it's not. It's like really far outside of his lips. It's almost like it's like once removed. Um, so he's got this other like jawline thing, and it creates this, I don't know, this other area. So he's got this part that comes down, touches his jacket a little bit, and then his chin comes over. And I'm going to be a little bit more deliberate about that. And it fades out where it kind of connects down, but then here he's got another really strong portion of his jaw where it kind of comes underneath. And this I'm going to build up. This is going to be kind of come down in here. And then it's not going to be so harsh because it folds down and it creates this like area beneath his chin. And this is, connects to his neck, and then it kind of comes around. So it's this thing where it folds around that side. So we want to make sure that we have a little bit of definition off of this edge. And we can fold that in. And I think it actually gets darker right in here. And you don't want to just put lines there, because then that line will get really heavy. And I need to kind of blend this up around his chin. And then it comes over here more. And then we're going to have to put that other line in. And the bad part is I can't make it lighter. And there's nothing I can do to make this lighter anymore. So it is what it is at a certain point. And I just got to deal with it. You can make things darker around it. I can't make it any lighter. If it looks like he has a bigger chin, it's probably just because of the angle I'm drawing at it. It elongates the face. I kind of know what I'm getting into, but I have multiple cameras in front of me and a microphone, so I'm trying to make room for all that. And we'll see if we can get that other camera up and running in a second. It may have something to do with my video or my internet quality. How many streams can a guy stream? If I had the Cookie Monster here, he would say 1 stream. And that's about it. Alright, and there's some other detail in here, but I don't have access to the best version of this photo, so it's just gonna get a little muddy down here, unfortunately. Because one, it's getting a little late. Testing some patience. And I don't have a lot of detail down there, so I don't want to spend too much time and overwork that. But I know that I can. So I'm going to just move on and try and get some more of the chin in. And maybe his smile does go a little bit wider. That's what I said earlier. I'll come back in and I'll add more things. So I'm not going to sit there and spend all day on just one spot. I'll definitely be coming back. Makes sense. Come back in. Our body does this really cool thing. Right around here. So there is actually a spot where it comes back like this. Like this is like a thing where it connects from the edge of your cheek around here. And even though it's not, like, I think the downside of this is the lighting does not lend itself to showing that off in this photograph that I'm drawing from. The lighting shows other things. And this is the question. Do you draw what you see or do you draw what you know? Because I know that's there and it's happening. It's just really hard from the lighting to be able to see it. And I have to be really conservative with my mark making because I don't have tons of marks that I can make. Otherwise, it'll get too dark. So I have to be really conservative on this portrait right now because I don't want to overdo it. And this is where the coat is. And his coat is super dark right there. But once again, he's got this salt and pepper type of coat on. Anybody ever tell, Silver Fox here that he needs to have a little bit more contrast in his attire? It would help years later after this photo was taken for the drawing to be done. I guess they didn't care. It was looking more like Bill. Okay, so then there's this kind of interesting thing where it kind of curves down. This curve down from his face. And then this goes up and around. With this kind of... Sometimes I like doing that on a portrait. Putting some lines in just so that you can see how it sculpts the face. Sometimes it comes off weird, but I feel like it's a little bit, I don't know, a bit of a signature style, a bit of a drawer's hand in it. I'm okay with it. Hopefully you guys are too. And then we got this. There's this little shadow area around the eye. We'll get this eye in there. Okay, and this is... If you've watched me draw them before, sometimes I'll get the eyes in right away. Because you wonder, like, which one's a little bit lower? Is it here? Where's the height of that eye? I don't wanna get it too big. His eyelid on this side is like barely open. So his eye goes... He's got his Barely open. But that looks way too tiny, doesn't it? When you fill it all in, looks a little better. But you know, I know the hilarious thing is his eye should be lower than the other eye, I think. So we start a little small. And we gotta work our way around to it. Yeah, sometimes eyes can be very tricky if you don't, you're drawn like I'm drawn, so. I don't know why I put that line in there. That may have ruined it. You never know. You know, sometimes it's hard to tell which is which. Kind of looks like he's got a hairnet on his eyebrow. You don't need a hairnet on your eyebrow, Bill. What are you doing? Okay, put that down here. Alright, we'll see. We'll see if we can salvage this weird eyebrow thing. Actually, in the drawing, I think I made this more narrow than it needed to be. He's got some interesting hair. See if we can get it in. This is a 4x6 sheet, so I had to do what I got to do. I'm definitely going to make this, push this back in space a little bit more as it relates to this piece, because he does have kind of a panel. And then this, yeah, there's some directional stuff going on. We'll see. We will see. If you ever look at a drawing, you're like, wow, I wish that person would have done a little bit more right there, or it's so close, or it looks pretty good. Like there's these moments where you look at it and you're like, I don't want to overwork it, but sometimes it's hard to know when that point has hit and where you are now. So I think I'm kind of at the brink. So let's finish some ears. Alright, he's got an interesting lobe here. What kind of lobe is this, Bill? Very interesting lobe. The only reason is like, why is there this huge shadow? Normally you don't see that on the ear. Normally the lobe kind of protrudes a little bit more. His lobe does not. Just in this photo it does something else. Alright, we're almost. We're making some connections. We are working. Alright, we're He has like this colic up here. Kicks out some hairs. He's got a massive amount of monotone gray right here. It kicks off into this little shape. There's a little shape, and then he's got like layers of shape there. And then, yeah, I mean, he's got very, it's kind of like stick straight hair in this photograph. A abyss of hair here. And I don't want to get lost in the abyss of Bill Clinton's hair. Man. There is some other wrinkles over here. He does have just a few around the eyes. There's some other ones around his eyelids. It's a little dark in there. And I kind of push his eye socket back a little bit more. Doesn't look like it's in there deep enough. So we push it back. Definitely has some deep lines underneath his eyes. And rightfully so. As president, you never know what kind of stuff you're going to get into, I bet. He had quite a time with it. Did I lose my piece here? I may have lost my indent. Let me just bring it back a little bit with some dark. I don't go too dark. It's almost on the brink. And I may have to go a lot darker in here to really pop this out. And before it was pretty dark when the rest of the face was light, and now it doesn't seem that way when you've given a lot of tone to the rest of it. So that pushes that further back. We have this like really white area. It's not supposed to be a highlight there, so we'll get rid of that. There's a little shadow underneath the ear. He has some shadows back here where that little part on our ear is. Yeah, I think the ear is a really great example of draw what you see and don't try and draw the anatomy of an ear. Sometimes you get lost in that, and it just needs to hint at what an ear is. It doesn't need to render a full anatomy of an ear. So keep that in mind if you're drawing. You don't have to render the whole thing. It's just enough to hint at what an ear is. And like if you look at this from an anatomy standpoint, it's probably gonna be really bad. But our body, our eyes kind of know what the heck that thing is. It's underneath the hair. Yeah, it looks ear enough. And I'm not doing an ear study. This is a portrait of Bill Clinton, and it is not a ear study of a gentleman with very sticky hair. Sticky as in little sticks formed, not as in the sticky bandits. So the question is, how do I get this video? I'm using a streaming software to put this video up. Traditionally, I take the recordings and I will put those on the time-lapse version on YouTube on a different channel. And I don't know where I will get the video. So we're doing some different stuff, trying to figure it out. Hopefully I can download the video from somewhere. And I will continue on my merry way and doing the time-lapse videos, because I think those are actually just a bit more fun. You get this whole drawing. Right now we've been going for 51 minutes, and I think it'll probably be down to like 5 minutes or something when we do. Ooh, that did get dark right here, didn't it? It'll be down to about 5 minutes when we compress it and put it on YouTube and do the time lapse. It definitely, some stuff gets collapsed. What I'll do also is I'll try and find a Bill Clinton media clip from when he was in office, when he was talking about probably his affair, and we'll probably have some more affair clip, and the press conferences and all that stuff. And I think that's why it kind of came up as like reckless. And who would I draw for reckless when it comes to the Inktober? And I was like, well, this seems probably like the most reckless character. And I'm sure there's a million other comments about, someone else who might be a little bit more reckless, but I think Bill was pretty reckless with his power and his station and his family and all that stuff. Got everything in the world going for him. Probably would have made some different decisions, but I think he qualifies for the reckless banner. Let's see if this is looking good from over here. Did we lose the thread, or are we there? Well, it's looking kind of Billy. Alright, I might want to add some more tones. Sometimes the other thing I can do, you'll see I'll just swirl the pen around a little bit. And just not pushing down very much, but it helps create a little bit of shape to help create the 3D nature of something. And there's ever so slightly some shadows and maybe the bridge of the nose and how all this stuff connects. There's little things we can do to connect them. Sometimes it's shape, sometimes it's directional. He does have a pretty good line in his brow right here. No doubt you'd have a furrowed brow after all the stuff as a president and the campaign and all the stuff that he was up. Man, after everybody's president, I always think, man, their hair just goes absolutely white. They must have seen the Roswell files, or they saw something that just shocked them. Maybe it's the amount of decisions that somebody has to make in that job. I don't know, but it's apparent that they've seen some stuff after that gig. So as nice as your hair is going in, you have a thick head of hair like Bill here. It's great, but it will turn white. I think even Obama's hair turned white. It's just the nature of the job. Like, all right, let's get this ear in. And just fill this in, send this to the back. Send it to the back. We got super muddy right there. I wish I could lighten it up a bit, but I can't anymore. It is what it is. And here's just some fluff. It's sometimes really important to just round out the face, put some shadows on the edge so that it pushes it back. You don't want that face to be flat. Yeah, there's just some some stuff. You want this to look like it rounds up. Yeah. Yeah, nice, fun nose, big chin on this one. I don't know if his chin's actually that big, but came out that way. I think this is... Let's see if we can get the other camera back in here. Maybe there's a way we can turn that guy back on. If we use the lower option, can we get it going again? Yeah. Just don't think it's working like I thought it would. I just don't think it's real time. I don't know what's going on with that. Wish I could prioritize it somehow. But I may have broken its broken that little computer brain. So we're just gonna try and finish this up. This turned into a little bit of a character, which wasn't necessarily always the... They're always a little bit of a character, but not... I don't think it was overtly set out to be one. Just decided it wanted to become one. Which is okay. I'm okay with that. Sometimes the drawing has a mind of its own. And so here's the edge. He's got a really nice thick, probably wool coat. And then, yeah, it kind of goes back in space. And then there's like a little crease. And this wrapped around the edge. And get this guy going. All in all, we'll see how this goes. I'm gonna keep on keeping on. Try and do a bunch of live streams for the next few weeks as Inktober continues. I think after October, may look into doing some other drawings, probably more pencil drawings, because I like the graphite. I'm really a huge fan of graphite and how I can manipulate that, move it around, and go back into it and erase. Just a lot of fun. So if you see me having too much fun, I'm probably using graphite. And in that case, Inktober's over. I just don't have tons of time to do multiple in one day. But something to look forward to after Inktober is the graphite drawings. And I probably won't be using a lot of powdered graphite. Mostly it's pencil, or there's some willow charcoal or some other cool stuff in here. Like this is Bic pencil or ink pen, and just a lot of mark making. And like here, if I want to get this black, it's gonna be a lot of mark making. Not the end of the world, but it's just sometimes time consuming. And then you think about craft and consistency and all the other pieces that come with it. And yeah, there goes your night. So maybe it makes sense to do a little of this and fill it in a bit more abstractly and try and get away from trying to finish every little piece, and we'll just get the impression in there. We can still finish it, but I want the option to bail if I need to bail. So yeah, hate drawing on those edges of the paper. I know it's my fault. I made all the decisions here, but I don't want to stop drawing because it's the edge, and I don't want it to look weird around the edges. But it just takes some time. All right, we are almost there. Live stream of Inktober, and it is only the 8th. So it took us a second to get going, but we've done videos every day, and we do drawings every day, all month. At least I'm trying to. And barring, me just getting tired or a hand cramp, we'll probably be here the whole time. This is what I'm trying to do. Man, this is crazy. It's a crazy sweater or a coat. Bill loved the coat, not a fan of drawing the coat. Not with a pen. Quite a bit of extra work around this coat. Then it's pretty uniform color after that. Let me see if I can. So the issue is the direction now makes it clean. But I kind of want a tonal value, and I don't want there to be a lot of direction derived from this. I'm sure people will, but that's not the point. I'm just trying to fill it in an interesting way, represent the tonal range and the textures and some of that stuff as accurately as we can, and have a good time doing it. I'm just going to put that in there. Okay, so we're getting close. We're getting really close. Might have to go in and add a few pieces here. And like when you're doing this, there's not a lot of time to step away from it, so I can't quite see all the inadequacies. I'm sure there's a bunch in here. But just gotta do what we gotta do. We keep on. Yeah, just this last piece. I can't see it because the title of the book's in the way, so we're just going to do the best we can. And I don't want that it's not the story of his collar, so I do need to put something in there. If I decided to just leave it white, it would become the story of Bill Clinton's collar, and that's not the point of the video. The point of the video is Bill Clinton, not his garment. So I gotta find a way to put this in the back. And sometimes easy ways to do that is just fill it in and give it a few, tonal passes. And I hate this on the edge, not very fun. But now that sends it back. It is a little monotone. So it's kind of like, what is this? Just an amorphous blob of nothingness. So we can come back in here and give it a little bit more character. Show that it does have some movement and some life in the garment. Once again, though, not a lot. And I want to differentiate the two sections. So I'm going to actually lay down quite a bit of ink there, just to make sure that those sections are differentiated enough from each other. But as we do that, we change We changed the tonal range of some of the other stuff. So we just have to go and update that. Okay. It doesn't look too bad. Because the coat is actually a gray, kind of a slate gray coat, maybe darker. I don't want the coat to pop out more than his face does. So we just have to make sure that this stuff goes back in space. And the only thing we have to do that is the tonal range. So I can do that. 1 second here. All right, we're gonna finish up this coat, and I think we're gonna tie it off here. We got Bill Clinton in the house. He is a man of mystery. Definitely a man who took some chances, did some reckless stuff. I don't know if his policies were that reckless, but I think his life and how he portrayed the presidency definitely took some chances there. Probably more chances than I would have taken. Uh, go Bill. I remember listening to some of the parody songs in high school, so he definitely was a bit of a joke for a bit. I think he's faded out of the spotlight a little bit. His wife jumped in and took over some of the heat. But yeah, I think there's some of these little extras I can put in here. Yeah, look for the time lapse. If you sat through this, amazing. Like, subscribe, tune in. I'm gonna be doing this every day for the rest of the month, hopefully. So you'll see a bunch of cool portraits come out of this. And if you have any requests or thoughts of who might be a really good fit, or a portrait you'd like to see me work on, add it in the comments. Or you can go to the website, politicalportraits.com. That's where I post everything for sale. If you want to go buy this, I'll have it over there in a little bit. Come back and buy it. There's a huge sale, 30% off everything on the site right now. In solitude with the government shutdown, we figured we should shut down these insane high prices I put on everything and offer some relief. So there is quite a sale going on. So if you like some of this stuff, get over there. Let me know. You can put in a request, and I'll probably draw that at some point. But it's definitely going to be my focus is political figures. Definitely presidents are cool. Senators are cool. Sometimes people associate with campaigns. Yeah. So if you got any requests, let me know. And I will see you guys on the next one. So cool.